Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off our presentation today. We're going to explore the fascinating world of HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. The title of our session is Introduction to HTML, and we'll also have a subtitle that highlights the basics of web development. Over the next few minutes, I'll give you an overview of what HTML is, how it works, and why it's so important for building websites. So, let's get started. Now, moving on to the second part of our contents, which is basic HTML commands. Here, we'll start by looking at a simple but fundamental element, the header to tag. This tag is used to create subheadings within your web page. It's an important building block because it helps organize your content and makes it more readable for visitors. When you see this, it's usually a sign that a new section or topic is beginning. Understanding how to use header tags properly is key to structuring your HTML documents effectively, and it ties directly into our overall theme of building well-organized, accessible web pages. Let's start by talking about HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's essentially the backbone of creating web pages on the World Wide Web. HTML helps us create structured documents by defining the different parts of the page like headings, paragraphs, lists, links, quotes, and more. It's what makes the content organized and easy to read. One of the key features of HTML is that it allows us to embed images and other objects directly into our pages, making them more engaging and interactive. We can also create forms that users can fill out, which is essential for things like login pages or surveys. HTML is built using elements called tags, which you can think of as labels that tell the browser how to display the content. These tags are always surrounded by angle brackets, like P for paragraphs or H1 for main headings. They serve as instructions for the web page on how to present each part. All HTML documents are created using simple text editors like Notepad, which means you don't need any fancy software. Once written, these files are saved with extensions like HTM or HTML, making them ready to be uploaded and viewed on the web. So, in the bigger picture, HTML is fundamental because it provides the structure and foundation for all web content, connecting seamlessly with other technologies to create the websites we use every day. Now, let's talk about the basic HTML commands, specifically the steps to use HTML tags. HTML uses tags to tell the browser how to display your text and images. These tags are always contained within angle brackets, or symbols. When you're writing, you generally start with an opening or beginning tag, then add the content you want affected by that tag, and finally, you close the tag with a matching closing tag. The closing tag usually has a slash before the tag name, which signals the end of that particular instruction. For example, if you want to create a title for your document, you'd use a title tag, like title my first HTML document /title. Notice how the closing tag is similar, but includes the slash before title. This structure is essential because it helps the browser understand where the command begins and where it ends. By mastering these basic steps, using the right tags and properly closing them, you ensure your web page displays correctly and looks professional. It's a fundamental building block of HTML, and once you get comfortable with it, creating well-structured pages becomes much easier. This concept connects to the overall theme of understanding how HTML communicates with browsers to turn your code into the visual content you see on web pages. Let's take a closer look at some important notes on tags. First, it's good to remember that HTML tags are not case-sensitive, so whether you write them in uppercase or lowercase, browsers will interpret them the same way. However, when it comes to URLs, they generally are case-sensitive, so you need to be careful there. Next, HTML has a tendency to collapse multiple spaces into a single space, and it doesn't recognize blank lines as meaningful formatting. This means if you're trying to add extra spacing or separate sections with blank lines, it might not work as expected in the browser. That's why I recommend leaving a few blank lines between paragraphs. It makes editing much easier later on. This practice doesn't affect how the page displays, but helps you keep your code organized and readable as you develop your site. So, keeping these points in mind will help you write cleaner, more predictable HTML, and make your editing process smoother. Remember, understanding these nuances helps you create more effective and maintainable web pages. Let's talk about the HTML tag. This tag is really important because it signals the start of your HTML code. Think of it as the opening marker that tells the browser, hey, now we're starting the web page's code. It's highly recommended to include this tag in all your HTML documents to ensure proper structure. Usually, you'll place it at the very beginning of your document, just after any declaration like the doc type. And of course, you need to close it at the end of your document with the closing HTML tag. This way, everything inside that tag is considered part of your web page. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding the HTML tag is fundamental because it lays the groundwork for everything else you'll build in your web page. Ahora habemos sobre la etiqueta de encabezado, head tag. Es similar a la cabecera de un memorando, y que contiene información especial sobre el documento HTML, como su título. La sección de encabezado se delimita con las etiquetas y. Es importante entender que todo lo que va dentro de esta sección, como el título y las configurations, no aparece directamente en la página, sino que ayuda a definir cómo se presenta y qué información tiene el documento. Un ejemplo típico del contenido en la sección de head puede incluir etiquetas de contenedor, que siempre tienen una etiqueta de inicio y una de cierre. Por ejemplo, y. Luego, pasemos a los atributos. Estos nos permiten agregar información adicional a las etiquetas, haciendo que sean más descriptivas. Por ejemplo, si usamos la etiqueta para crear un párrafo, podemos agregar un atributo como align para definir la alineación del texto, como a la izquierda, al centro o a la derecha. Hablando de títulos y la etiqueta body, la etiqueta nos permite especificar el título del documento que aparece en la ventana del navegador. Es importante recordar que ese título no aparece en el contenido principal, sino en la barra de título en la parte superior. Un ejemplo sería, mi primer documento HTML. Luego, la etiqueta marca el inicio y el fin del contenido principal de la página. Todo lo que queremos que aparezca en la pantalla, como texto, imágenes y enlaces, debe estar dentro del body. Por ejemplo, la página podría comenzar con un encabezado que diga, mi primer documento HTML. Pasando a los encabezados, hay hasta 6 niveles, H1 a H6. El H1 es el más grande y el H6 el más pequeño. Se usan para estructurar contenidos, y ayudan a los usuarios y a los motores de búsqueda a entender la jerarquía de la información en la página. Ahora hablemos de los párrafos. En HTML, la etiqueta se usa para marcar cada párrafo. Cuando lo hacemos con, crea un espacio adicional, como un salto de línea con un espacio extra debajo, lo cual ayuda a separar los textos. También, si usamos sin cerrar, solo crea un salto de línea sin espacio adicional. Para facilitar la edición, es recomendable dejar unas líneas en blanco entre párrafos. Finalmente, recordar que los párrafos deben cerrarse con. Y que entre ellos es conveniente insertar unas líneas en blanco para que el código sea más legible y fácil de editar. Welcome to slide 8 of 8. Here, we're focusing on text formatting in HTML. This is a crucial concept because proper formatting enhances readability and emphasis in your web pages. Let's start with the basics of boldface and italics. Emphasis can be added using specific tags like the bold tag or the emphasis tags. For example, wrapping text in the bold tag will make it stand out, such as this is a boldface tag. Similarly, italics can be applied to highlight certain words, like this is an italic tag. Now, an important note to remember is that you usually cannot combine bold and italics on the same text. Typically, the last tag you apply will determine how the text is displayed. This is something to keep in mind when you're designing your content. Moving on, let's talk about lists, which are fundamental for organizing information clearly. There are different types of lists in HTML. Unnumbered lists, for instance, start with the old tag and use Li tags for each item. Think of it as a bullet point list. Numbered lists are similar but use the all tag, which automatically numbers each item. This is useful when the order of items matters, like steps in a process. Then there are definition lists, which are great for terms and their definitions. You use the DL tag, with DT for the term and DD for the definition. This helps keep complex information structured and easy to follow. Next, let's touch on some miscellaneous tags. Horizontal rules, marked with the HR tag, act as visual separators between sections, helping your page look clean and organized. The address tag is used for contact information, typically placed at the end of your document. It appears in italics, making it distinguishable from the main content. Comments in HTML are also important. They don't show up in the browser but are useful for notes to future editors. They look like this, and you can insert them anywhere in your code. Other useful features include setting background colors, defining border attributes for objects, and adjusting cell padding and spacing in tables. These help you customize the appearance of your web page to match your design goals. Finally, I want to emphasize that understanding and properly applying these formatting tags will significantly improve the clarity and professionalism of your web pages. Thank you for participating in this overview of HTML.